Hello divers, welcome back to the Waterman. Today we're going to talk about the pre-dive safety check. I'm going to go through how I teach my pre-dive safety check to my students. PADI has their begin with review and friends. I think that's kind of a hard one to remember. If it works for you, then great. But I prefer because we really aren't fish. I find that easy to remember. It's kind of funny. Students remember it. So the B is going to be BCD. W is going to be weights. R is going to be releases. A is going to be air. We check our regulators, check our air pressure. And F is going to be final check. So I'm going to go through each one of those steps with you and show you exactly how to perform each part of the pre-dive safety check here. Okay guys, so once you're all suited up, you and your buddy are going to get together for the pre-dive safety check. As I mentioned, I like to remember it by because we really aren't fish, BCD, weights, releases, air, final check. So to check the BCD, I'm going to start by fully inflating my BC. I want to fully inflate it until I hear that overflow valve. I want to check and make sure that that valve opens and closes and that it fully functions properly. I don't want to just partially inflate the BCD. Okay, it's good, it's inflating. I want to actually make sure that if the BCD has a free flow and just continuously puts air into my bladder back here, my wing, that it's not going to cause damage, that my overflow valve is going to work. The next thing I'm going to do is check all of the dumps on my BC. So I've got on this particular BC 1, 2, and then a third one down here. So that's going to look like this when I'm checking this. I'll do 1, 2, and the third one down here. Now I know that my BCD is in good functioning order. I'm going to move on to the next part of the pre-dive safety check. Because so that's going to be my weights. My weights are in, they're secure. I have a different kind of weight pocket than my students have, and so I do teach to actually pull on the weight pocket itself, not on the quick release function, because you can only pull so hard on those quick releases and the pockets will come out. So to check to make sure it's actually securely connected, pull on the pocket itself, not on the release, because you can pull that pocket as hard as you want. So we've checked our BCD because, we've checked our weights, and now we're moving on to really, which is releases. Now, this part of the pre-dive safety check is very important to do with your buddy. We're not just checking to make sure that our releases are connected. We also want to know what kind of releases our buddy has in the unlikely event that we need to help get them out of their gear. It's better to know going into the dive how you would handle that situation than to wait for an emergency to start figuring out how you would get them out of their gear. In this BC, I have 1, 2, 3, and 4. So 2 shoulders, 1 chest strap, and my kidney belt. Okay, so because BCD, weights, R really is releases, A for aren't is going to be air. So to check our air, we want to take our air gauge here. I can get this off easily, okay? And while looking at the air gauge, you want to take 3 breaths off of each regulator. They don't have to be big, deep breaths. The idea is to just get the regulator to cycle 3 times. Make sure you're inhaling and exhaling through the regulator so that it's going through a complete cycle of its function. After you've checked your primary, looking at the air gauge, now you want to do the same thing, but with your backup. Unless you don't like your dive buddy, I guess you could skip this and hope it's not working. Just kidding, don't do that. Okay, so I've checked air. I know that my air is in good functioning order. When I'm looking at the gauge, by the way, what I'm looking for is either consistent dropping. That might mean that I set up my gear, I turned on my air, and then I decided to shut it off, because I set up my gear maybe a couple hours before my dive. That's, a lot of people do that. If you do notice it's dropping, you just forgot to turn off your air. If it's sputtering, meaning you see the needle kind of rise and fall, that can mean one of a few things. You either have a problem with your first stage, you have a problem with your tank valve, or you just don't have your air all the way open. You may have just cracked it open and not opened it up all the way. That's an important step in the air, and probably one of the most important steps in the pre-dive safety check. Okay, because we really aren't fish. So now we're going to move on to the F for final check. In this particular case, for this dive, it's just going to be my mask and fins. However, keep in mind that your final check does change depending on the objective of the dive. For example, if this is a night dive, my final check would include my primary and my backup dive light. If I was going lobster diving, then I'd probably be doing it at night, so it'll include a primary, a backup, as well as my game bag and my lobster gauge. Anyway, I hope that this has been helpful for you guys. I hope my acronym for remembering the pre-dive safety check is helpful. There's a lot of them. When I was learning to dive, I had a blonde woman as my dive instructor. This is, going back almost a couple decades, and she taught me blonde women really are fine. I've also heard Bruce Willis rocks all films. Some people who don't like Bruce Willis will say Bruce Willis ruins all films. So there's a bunch of them out there, but my favorite one is because we really aren't fish. Anyway, guys, don't forget to like and subscribe, and please let me know in the comments if there's any specific skills I can go over with you guys, any gear you want me to review. Just let me know. I'm here for you guys. Thanks so much.